Today on Technado, we'll be talking with Marty Bakal from OpenLegacy about legacy systems. We're also going to be looking at all the news out of Google's announcements about hardware and find out how you can get into a new Samsung phone with any fingerprint. That's all coming up on Technado, starting right now. Hello and welcome to Technado. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, joined, as always, by Don Pizzette and Justin Dennison. How you gentlemen doing?
I'm doing well. I'm concerned about that, as always, because I feel compelled to never miss a time now.
Yeah.
Don't know if I can make that commitment.
We have a cutout for when you're not here.
Oh.
And I've made a soundboard of Justin's sounds. That's one of them.
So we just got, right before we started rolling this show, we got done with a very in-depth conversation about the many forms of Voltron. Mm-hmm. And I think that the podcast is like that, Justin, when you're not here. Like, imagine if one of the Voltron lions called in sick, and so now the robot's got to fight with, like, one leg.
Yeah, if it's the red lion, then you don't have a head, right? It was the red lion, right?
No, it was the black lion.
Was it the it was the black lion.
Yeah.
That's right. The red lion was one of the arms.
These are the hard-hitting issues.
Yes.
Oh, where's Wind today?
How do we get to Captain Planet?
Yeah, Captain Planet.
I was trying to think of other things that come together.
Peter made a smog.
That work. All right. Hey, we've got a big show today. We have David Letterman always used to say that, like, it could be any show, and big show.
He said a lot of things.
Yeah, he made a lot of promises, but this one is big. We have Marty Bakal joining us a little bit later. He's the product evangelist from OpenLegacy. An Israeli company just came over to the U.S. As well to do some business. So we're going to talk all about great legacy systems and how we can keep those things running, because apparently people still want to keep those things running. So we'll do that. And we're going to play a little buzzword bingo today. So head over to go.itpro.tv/buzzword-bingo. Grab your card, play along with us. All the fun, exciting words, cloud, we took off a bunch of words.
We did.
In the last
we
week
updated
or so.
our buzzwords.
Yeah. They have to reflect the times. They have to be today's buzzwords. No longer is synergy or paradigm on here. Those things are gone. I've gone with these new things that I won't say, so I'm not. You got the pen ready.
I'm ready. I'm like, he's going to slip up.
I'm not going to say
Also, I was thinking, based on the times, I should just have ransomware as all the... I said it. Yeah. Did you have it?
Yeah, that's every week. I mean,
It's
I'm
kind
sure
of a
we'll
gimme.
get to that.
Yeah.
But our first article, not about ransomware, but might get
Not
a couple
yet.
other buzzwords in there as well. This one's from Reuters. Facebook's Libre currency abandoned by major financial companies. So my question here is, why had major financial companies invested in this currency?
No, invest is a strong word,
Sure.
right?
Okay.
So we reported on this several months ago when Facebook launched the initiative to create their own cryptocurrency, and that was Facebook's Libre. I'm not exactly sure how they picked the name on that one, but a number of big names got behind it. MasterCard, Visa, PayPal, just a whole big list of companies. And what's happened is over the last 2 weeks, it started with PayPal leaving the organization, and then just a couple of days ago, MasterCard and Visa have both left, and now all that's left are a couple of like venture capital firms, and that's
Diners
it.
Club International.
I don't think they even have Diners Club. They left home without it. So
And that was Amex, right?
Oh, that was Amex. What was Diner Club's
I
thing?
don't think
It was Telly
they-
Savalas.
did they have
and he would
commercials?
say,
Oh, they did, yeah.
yeah, I remember.
Wow, you're older.
Good old Telly Savalas. But yeah, so companies are dropping out, and I don't think anybody's really invested in the platform besides Facebook at this point, as far as like building it and putting money into it. But they need partnerships. They need other companies to say, yes, we're ready to use this currency to give it legitimacy. And most of the other organizations said, look, the U.S. Senate and the U.S. Congress, the United States government as a whole, hates the idea of the Libre currency, or really any alternative currency that the U.S. government doesn't control, right? And so they just felt they couldn't overcome that. And some senators had some pretty nasty things to say, so it made sense that companies are wanting to distance themselves from that.
And even then, I think within this article, they actually call out that I think certain European companies said, we will also say, nope, can't use it whatsoever. It makes me sad because it's written in a programming language that I enjoy using.
What is that, Rust?
Rust, yeah. But it is, it seems oddly enough, we are reporting on this during the Libre horoscope.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
maybe that's how they picked the name then.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe that's why they decided to pull out now.
Yeah, they're like,
It's going to make a big splash in
Well,
the
no,
news.
the Facebook head who's in charge of the project said the project's not dead, right? They're still going to continue on. It's just, it is a serious blow. It's going to make it harder to get adoption. I'm trying to find it. The quotes from the senators are in
There's
here
one
where
at the
they said,
the very bottom.
oh, is it like at the
Yeah.
end of the article? Where they say, like, look, we're basically going to have some really, really sharp eyes watching every single move you make. And that's not a good omen for a new project like this.
France and Germany also last month pledged to block Libre from operating in Europe and back the development of a public cryptocurrency instead.
Oh, see, I think a public cryptocurrency is bad too.
Yeah, this senator said, every breath you take, every move you make, I'll be watching you.
Senator Sting
Yeah.
has reported.
Interesting. And he also
Yeah.
said Roxanne.
Yeah. He was
yeah,
surrounded by police.
And then he fell into tantric meditation for 2 hours. And everybody's just waiting for him to talk
Senator
again.
Sherrod Brown and Senator Brian Schwartz or Schatz wrote in a letter, if you take this on, you can expect a high level of scrutiny from regulators, not only on Libre-related payment activities, but on all activities. So they're saying, hey, we're opening this up to, we're going to look past just the Libre stuff. Like, oh, we're good. Yeah, let's.
You better be ready to open your books and let us take a look at everything. And so the rest of the company said, no, we'll pass.
Well, we've already seen with the IRS, how kind of cracking down on crypto and weren't they looking at people's social or what were they doing to find out how that people had used?
So what they're doing is, remember that with cryptocurrencies, the entire blockchain is public. You can see every transaction that happens. You just can't necessarily map a wallet to an identity, right?
Right.
So what they do is they scour social media and other places for any time somebody posts their identity along with a wallet code. So now they can attach you to a wallet, and then they can pull all the wallet transactions that have been made. And they can do it today, they can do it a year from now, they can do it 10 years from now, because it's all right there in the global ledger, right?
I heard that Donald Trump is going to release his wallet soon.
Yeah.
But we're waiting to see that. So
Send your donations.
I thought you were going to say that he's creating a cryptocurrency.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this is news to me.
what would you call that?
Trump coin?
Orange coin?
I still say Coinye was the best name.
Coinye? Yeah, that's
that
a
was
good
the
one.
best one. But
That's a good one.
well.
What's the big popular one that everyone uses?
So there's
Monero?
there was actually, it's going to come up in
Dogecoin?
another article later. So we're going to say it anyway.
Oh,
so
so I don't have to-
Yeah,
okay.
you don't have to manipulate me. But Bitcoin's the most popular one.
said
But
it.
you're seeing, for a while, Ethereum was taking over. But a lot of the ransomware is switching to Litecoin now. And the reason they're going to Litecoin is not that it's necessarily better, but because a lot of companies are setting up spam filters that if they see the word Bitcoin in an email, they just throw it away. Like, I mean, honestly, if somebody sends me an email and has the word Bitcoin in it, it is not something important for me
You're
to
like,
read.
yeah, we put your ransom letter in the spam folder. Sorry about that.
So,
They
so
haven't
now,
sent a letter yet.
Now they're using Litecoin to try and get away from that.
Oh, that's fun. Our next article is over on Slate.com. Microsoft Word users are incensed over Apple's new Catalina OS, which I still have not upgraded to yet, but I will at some point. I've just got to get through High Sierra first, which I haven't upgraded to either. So why are people so mad? I heard that there's like a change in the UI or something.
No. You would think it would be something like
No?
that. This one, I honestly think that this article author, I mean, you got to get a nice headline.
It's a little
dramatic.
sensationalistic.
Yeah, I doubt anybody's incensed, but
There's a tweet. This guy looks angry.
if you dig into it, remember that macOS Catalina is the first macOS to support only 64-bit applications. They've
Right.
killed off support for 32-bit. Now, like 3 versions ago, Apple announced this, and they've been displaying warnings on your screen that if you launch a 32-bit app, it tells you, hey, this app needs to be updated. It's not going to work. Well, it turns out a couple of people ignored the warnings, and then they upgraded. And then their 32-bit apps didn't work. And then they went on Twitter and posted about it. And, it's silly things like one of the tweets is, want to update to macOS Catalina, but can't justify losing access to all the outdated 32-bit apps I rely on. Looking at you, Microsoft Word for Mac 2011.
When I read that, like I almost knocked myself unconscious with an eye roll.
Yeah.
Like that is 8 years old, and correct me if I'm wrong, I can get a new version of that, right?
You certainly can, yep. And so, but the thing is, with older software, you could buy it and own it forever. And, versus now where they want you to subscribe to it. So I can see where people might not want to do that. But in this case, that person is making that choice. And so this isn't like Apple's fault. And there's plenty of other OSs that are going through the same thing. Hey, if you upgrade to Catalina, you won't be able to run 32-bit apps, or you'll need to run a virtual machine and run it inside a VM, which for a word processor is not going to be worth it. There's also the whole point that Apple gives you a free word processor. I can't remember the name of it because
Pages. That good.
Is it Pages?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so you've got
which used to be
alternatives.
paid for, but now you get them for free. So I don't really understand why you would be running 8-year-old software. Like, yeah, you own it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little paranoid from being around everyone around here. I'm like, it's outdated. It's bad. It's security. No good.
I'm just mad I can't use Word 2011 on Fedora now.
Yeah. And
I'm
wine.
upset about that. Yeah.
Although you can use the web-based versions of Word if you have Office 365, but at that point you likely have the 64-bit software.
I can also use those on a Chromebook.
You can.
Yep.
You can.
Smart.
Speaking of Chromebooks, there were some big announcements this week.
Ooh, let's go over to our next article from CNET.com. Pixel 4 and every Made by Google 2019 announcement. Pixel Buds, Pixelbook Go, Google Stadia?
Are you trying to channel your inner Bubba Gump?
Yeah. We got Pixel Go, we got
Pixel Buds and Google Stadia.
So along with the Pixel 4 phone, we got a preview of the new Pixel Buds, because weed is legal now in California, Nest Mini, Nest Wi-Fi, and new $649 Chromebook, the Pixel Go. So Don, I know you got the Pixel when it first came out.
Yep.
And I think it was 2 weeks.
No, the first
first one was
Pixel
good?
I actually had for about 2 months before I
2
got
months.
rid of it.
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
You went back to the iPhone then? Or was there in between you went to a
I think
Samsung?
I was back to a Samsung at that point.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you got the Pixel 2 when it
Pixel
came out.
2,
They
which-
sent you a used one,
Yeah.
which I don't know how they had used ones because it was...
It wasn't used. It had failed quality control.
Oh, it had the letter
It had
in
the
there
quality control
saying
slip in it,
So
yeah.
gotta lick at it.
And so you didn't even try with the second one there.
Well, so I had to send that one back and get a new one.
Okay.
And so I did have the new one, but I only had it for like 2 weeks before I
was
decided
2
the Pixel
weeks.
2 wasn't.
So this
worth it.
one, by that same pattern, you'll have for 2 days.
So I didn't even try the Pixel 3. I skipped that one.
yeah,
And now it's the
yeah.
Pixel 4
So
that's
you're
come
right,
out.
yeah.
Yeah. And, I love Android phones. I've used a ton of them. I've had just a number of Android devices over the years, but I have not been impressed with the Pixels. And this year, Apple kind of laid an egg, in my opinion, with the iPhone 11, where it's just not significantly better. I mean, if you care about cameras, I guess, but even then, it's just not significantly better than what we had in the past. The Pixel 4, basically the same thing. Like if you have a Pixel 2 or 3, there's not really a lot of motivation to upgrade to a 4 unless you get it as part of a free upgrade plan.
But what is Radar Phone Unlock? It uses radar?
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be better facial recognition, which there was another article I didn't pick for the podcast today, but it was saying how like Google's new Unlock will actually work if your eyes are closed, which some people are saying how accurate can it be if it works with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
But anyhow, the only part of the announcement that really mattered, in my opinion, was their new Pixelbook strategy, which I was expecting a few different things. Google had announced previously that they were going to start opening up their bootloader so that you could possibly dual boot between the operating system that the Chromebooks run and run like Microsoft Windows or an actual install
We've talked
of
about
Linux.
how you can't put other OSs on the Chromebook right now. Right.
When you buy a Chromebook, it runs Chrome OS, and that's it. And you can use things like Crouton to run Ubuntu or Debian or whatever in a container, but it's still Chrome OS that's running under the hood. So you can't just say, I'm going to format my Chromebook and throw Windows on it or Red Hat or whatever. You can't do that. So they had said they were going to open things up a little bit and allow it. They backtracked on that. They didn't. And so the new Chromebook, the Pixelbook Go, is still locked down. It still just runs Chrome OS. It's priced at $649, which is not as outrageous as the previous Pixelbook that was like $1,200. It was ridiculous for a Chromebook. I still think $650 is way too much for a
you
Chromebook.
get a Chromebook for a couple $100, right?
You can.
And not to mention, I think somewhere in here it says that it does not come with an SD card, so whatever storage you buy it with is the
It's all
storage
you
that you
get.
have.
Oh, it
Yeah.
doesn't even have a slot, you mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
What
Wow.
got me is, and for our viewers, people are watching, they can see the picture here on my laptop, but for the listeners, at first glance, if you were to show me this picture,
It looks like a MacBook Air.
I would say, oh, look, a MacBook Air.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just, it completely looks like, and not the newest MacBook Air. It looks exactly like the MacBook Air from like 7 years ago.
Yeah, it's not even a touch bar.
Yeah, there's no touch bar. So it's
I mean, you're kind of selling me on it. I'm
Wait a second. Yeah.
Wait, how much are these?
No touch bar.
Oh,
How much do I have to pay to get rid of this?
$649.
That sounds good.
So it was a disappointing Google event for me. I don't know about the listeners out there, viewers. Maybe you guys were more excited about it, but I didn't really see anything. They talked about Google Stadia, which is a giant waste of time, and yeah, it just I don't know.
So the Pixel Buds, right?
Pixel Buds.
There was a little quote in here. It said it's like a computer in your ear, and I went, they're listening to me. So I was like, I'm gonna pass. Initially, when I read that, it was we could always make the wonderful Wii joke, but also I thought it was just like a little bobblehead or something. That was
a little buddy.
Yeah, like an Android. It's like, hey, there he is. It's my Pixel Bud with my Pixelbook Go.
Now you can have a friend.
Yeah.
Do you remember the movie Dogma? They
Yes.
had Buddy Jesus, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
sit on the dashboard.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, it's the same thing,
Finger
but
point.
it's listening.
Yeah, always.
Jesus.
Well, now it is kind of
Is,
neat to have a good point. It is kind of neat to have a like Google Assistant available at any given time right there in your ear. But I'm sure it's going to make for some weird conversations. And I recall I was at a bus stop in Seattle one day, and there was this lady there who was just having a full blown conversation. And I thought, man, that must be the smallest Bluetooth earpiece because I couldn't see it. I thought her hair was blocking or whatever, and then she got on the bus and left, and there was another lady at the bus stop, and she said, I can't believe that lady was talking to herself the whole time. And it turns out she wasn't in a phone call. She was just having a straight-up conversation with the voices in her head. So now we can all recreate that.
So, for some reason, I went, computer in your head, in your ear all the time. Isn't that how hypnosis works? Right? Isn't that like Manchurian Candidate territory?
Yeah,
right? You just hear beep, and you go, uh-oh, here we go.
Is it Fantastic Voyage where the people are stuck in his body and he can hear them? Or is it the other one?
Oh, I don't know that
Being
one.
John Malkovich?
Oh, no. Inner Space?
Is it Inner Space?
Inner Space where it's...
Is that the Rick Moranis one?
Yeah, and they shrink him down and he gets
Okay.
injected into, what's his name? Inner Space, yeah.
But what's Fantastic Voyage besides a Coolio song? It's the same thing.
I don't know. I think that one was submarines. It was a TV show.
Yeah, I thought they went into people.
I don't know. There was the book. Either of you guys read Old Man's War by John Scalzi?
Read.
It's a sci-fi book. It is absolutely hilarious, but it's set in the future, and the soldiers all have a computer embedded in their head. It's like AI they can talk to, and they get to pick a name, and they all pick like vulgar names for their AI.
By the way, Fantastic Voyage, 1966, a scientist is nearly assassinated. In order to save him, a submarine is shrunk into a microscopic size and injected into his bloodstream with a small crew.
Well, that sounds exactly like Inner Space.
Yeah, but it wasn't a comedy. Inner Space is more of a comedy.
Yeah, I'm sure Fantastic Voyage would be a comedy if we
Now,
watched it today.
it is a total Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of film at this point.
Or the Magic School Bus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get to our next article. Speaking of devices still, Samsung, this is on the BBC.com, Samsung, anyone's thumbprint can unlock the Galaxy S10 phone. Now, this headline makes it appear as if Samsung is announcing that, because it's like a colon, like, this is a feature.
It's a feature.
Yeah. It's, the global unlock feature that they now have.
In a way, they are announcing it because they have confirmed.
Yeah.
That was
Now, that kind of falls under the you had one job category. So the guy that they said, all right, you do the fingerprint scanner. Yep, it confirmed that's a fingerprint.
Whose phone is it? It's Bill's.
Yeah, you told me just put a fingerprint scanner on it and it confirms fingerprint. Got it.
Yeah, it's like,
you're
yep.
in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what's going on here is one day Apple decided that fingerprints weren't good enough and we could switch to crappy facial recognition instead. And so Samsung took that as a sign that, hey, we shouldn't have a fingerprint scanner on the back of our phones either. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have an under-the-screen one?
Oh, right, yeah.
Apple couldn't quite get it to work, and so they don't have one. Instead, you end up with crappy Face ID. Well, on Samsung's side, they did come up with the... what is it? The sonogram technology to do your fingerprint.
Did they?
The what?
But did they, though?
Well, so
I feel like it just plays a tone from a doorbell. It goes, yeah, you're it.
So it turns out that if you put just like the cheapest, garbagiest, whatever screen protector on the screen of your Galaxy S10, that there are, not all of them, but there are some screen protectors that will cause any fingerprint to unlock the phone. Now, these claims are a little bit big, right? And in the article, they only have one story. It's a husband and wife, and the husband was able to unlock the wife's phone using either thumbprint, and he wasn't programmed in.
That's how they found out they were twins.
So there you go. Well, twins have different fingerprints, right?
But do they?
Either way, so when I first saw that, I thought, this could all be a hoax. But then Samsung confirmed it. They are aware of it, and they're telling people that it's a malfunctioning fingerprint scanner and that everyone should disable the fingerprint scanner until Samsung's able to release a patch. We'll have to see where this goes, but it's a real problem, and it tells you that the under-the-screen fingerprint readers are not as secure as the previous ones on the back of the phone.
Yeah, hopefully there's something they can actually patch with software,
I
too.
doubt it.
Yep, totally doubt it.
Yeah, not gonna happen, huh?
Bill messed up. He didn't get his job right. Learned two things. Don hates facial recognition. And number two, fingerprints are not entirely genetic. They are
They're learned.
They're affected by the environment. So like interactions in the womb.
So twins would have different.
Yep.
I had heard that twins had different fingerprints. Yeah.
And
in an unrelated phone story today, I had my phone out at lunch today, and I was looking at the case, and someone said, "Well, it's a Kylie Jenner case." I said, "What?" I've had this case for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, and on the side, didn't notice it's Kendall and Kylie right there.
oh man,
I got it at the TJ
I tell
Maxx.
you what. Why are you telling this?
Yeah, because I won't have this case tomorrow.
Oh,
so I'll
okay.
show you today.
All right.
This whole time I haven't noticed that. Kylie.
Reading is hard.
So the next time you find yourself asking, like, why do the Kardashians exist? Why are they on TV?
Yeah,
you
my
can
fault.
say, I helped to fund that.
My bad. $4.99 at TJ Maxx. I did it.
I bought a case once from UAG, right, which was like Urban Armor Gear or something, whatever it stands for. And it was an all right case, and I put it on, and I showed my wife, and she said, why does your phone say VAG? And I said, it doesn't. It says UAG. And he said, no, it's VAG. And I looked at it, and I'm like, no, it doesn't say that. But then
you went in straight denial.
I went into denial. And then after that, like 3 different people said that to me, like, why did your phone say VAG? And I'm like, all right, I gotta peel off the sticker or something.
It's a great conversation starter is what it is.
So the UAG, the U, doesn't look very U-like?
I thought so, but what do I know? It was boxy.
Oh, yeah. No, I could see how that could go that way because it's kind of a machiney kind of font.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fun.
Well, anyhow,
Good-
just shows.
good work on
You're
that.
not the only one to buy a questionable case.
Yeah, all right. So we don't normally do tweets here because, tweets aren't news. But in this case, it is. We're going to go over to twitter.com now to Matthew_D_Green, who doesn't have the blue check mark next to his name, so it could be
Well,
anybody.
he does have blue hair, though,
That's true.
so that counts.
Kind of like Ben Affleck. But he says, wait, Apple is sending URLs to Tencent? And then he's got a Safari privacy screenshot here from his phone, which says, I'll read the highlighted portion, before visiting a website, Safari may send information calculated from the website address to Google Safe Browsing and Tencent Safe Browsing to check if the website is fraudulent. These safe browsing providers may also log your IP address. So I don't know anything about Tencent. Why is this concerning?
All right, so this blew up over the weekend, and the reason I picked the Twitter article or the Twitter link instead of the news articles, it was developing. So as the story kind of broke, people reported it one way, then Apple came out and provided more information, and they started reporting a second way. So I couldn't find one good news article that really captured this. So I just went with the source, the original person. So this guy took the time to read the license agreement in Safari on the iPhone.
The one guy.
The one guy. This is the one guy. And he found this statement. And what it means is that basically if you're using Safari on the iPhone, which a lot of people do, I use it. I'm not a fan of Safari, but on the iPhone, if you want ad blocking, like Safari is the only one that's officially supported. So if you're doing Safari, whenever you type in a URL, it sends some information to Google Safe Browsing so they can determine if the URL is safe or if it's a malware URL, right? So that's good. It protects us. Except we all know that Google harvests your information and uses it for marketing, right? It's all telemetry, so they collect that data.
What?
I know. It's shocking, right? Well, Tencent is a Chinese company, and they provide the same type of functionality, but for mainland China. And so if you're a Chinese citizen, well, the Chinese government controls all of your internet access, and they record all of your access. Well, if you're an American and you're using Safari, the end user license agreement says that Apple can send your browsing telemetry over to Tencent. And so this guy highlighted it. It obviously exploded. The whole privacy community went nuts. And this guy, he's not just some random guy. His title, it's on here somewhere. Well, anyhow, he actually is a privacy advocate. So, he pays attention to this stuff. Apple came back and reported that what they actually send is this k-anonymized data, which means they take the URL, they hash the URL, and then they shorten it a little bit and truncate it and submit that to Google or submit that to Tencent. They then try and match that up against malicious URLs. And because they've only got part of it, they might get multiple hits, and they send the multiple results back to you, and then your phone is able to determine if the URL you were going to is actually in that list. And so they don't know exactly where you went, but they kind of know within a grouping of, say, 10 sites where you might have gone. But your IP address is very much in that data. And so in China, they use this to track the location of people or tie people to a phone for identification purposes. And it turns out they can do that just fine right here in the US and pretty much every other country as well.
So I had the same question that you had, Peter. What is Tencent? Tencent Holdings Limited is a multinational conglomerate that effectively does everything. Like, they're a giant global brand, probably mainly because of population and stuff on the other, because I'd never heard of them, but they do a bunch of stuff: agriculture, games, venture capital, investment, banking, social media. It seems like they run a lot of shows.
And they are primarily owned by the Chinese government.
Oh, well, there you go.
Fantastic.
Yep. So that's why it was a big deal. So just be aware, the way your data is handled. When people say there's privacy concerns, sometimes we blow it off like, whatever, who cares if Mark Zuckerberg can tell when my birthday is. But a lot of companies are taking some pretty big liberties with what they put in their license agreements. That data goes out, and some of it you can't stop. Like this, there apparently is an opt-out process, which is you can go into your Safari settings and you can turn off safe browsing. So if you say, don't protect me, you get your privacy back. But now you might go to malicious sites. So it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing.
I will say Mark Zuckerberg has had my birthday since, 06?
That stingy bastard never sends a gift.
Not even a card.
Yeah.
A phone call? I don't know.
Something. A text.
Let's head over to bleepingcomputer.com for our next article here. New Microsoft NTLM flaws may allow full domain compromise. NTLM, Don, help me out with that one.
So NTLM stands for New Technology Land Manager. So
does it have anything to do with Windows NT?
Yeah.
It does. Oh.
So, way back in the day, when Microsoft had DOS, right? So like DOS 3, 3.1, even all the way through DOS 6, it didn't have a networking stack. And instead of writing their own networking stack, Microsoft just licensed one from Intel, and it was the Intel LAN Manager, right? And so that became the Microsoft LAN Manager. And in the DOS days and Windows 3.1 days, they didn't have a network stack that would come with them. But when Windows NT came out, they started packaging LAN Manager with it. So it was the NT LAN Manager, or NTLM. So this is all old stuff, right? So this is all like mid-1990s that this was happening, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Why aren't we talking about it today? The reason here is that Microsoft maintains a lot of backwards compatibility. And even if you're running Windows 10, it still has support for communicating and authenticating with systems using NTLM. Well, another NTLM flaw has come out. This is like the third one this year, where an attacker can actually do a man in the middle. They can proxy an authentication session, capture credentials, re-authenticate, and so on. That's bad, right? Now, they say it could allow a full domain compromise. That doesn't really matter. They can basically hijack a session, take over authentication, and then access files and other information as you because they've seized that session. So it's bad. And what makes it even worse is that most of us don't even need NTLM anymore, right? With Windows 2000, Microsoft rolled out Kerberos support, and any Windows operating system newer than Windows 2000 supports that. So it's pretty safe to disable NTLM in most environments. It's been 19 years. If you're still reliant on NTLM, you're not putting your best foot forward here on keeping your systems current. So it's basically just another call, though, to say, look, the default setting in Windows is it supports this old authentication, and it's got some weaknesses in it. This one has a CVE number. It is in the article somewhere.
Yeah, 2019-1166.
Right, and you've probably seen it referred to as Drop the Mic 2, which is kind of its
all
code
the time.
name.
Yeah.
But anyhow, it's a big deal. So if you work for a company running Windows, you need to look into disabling NTLM if you can, or mitigating some other way if you can't.
Well, this also said that part of the Patch Tuesday security updates issued yesterday cover this, right?
It's supposed to, yeah.
Yeah. So
I haven't seen confirmation on whether or not it has. So yeah, Microsoft is
I
working.
feel
on
like there's a
patch.
bunch of ATMs or like vending machines or something that are running like embedded windows that are. Oh,
NT
look at this!
systems.
I took
That's
it over.
true. You know, our old video switching panels back there were Windows 7 boxes. We couldn't upgrade them, couldn't patch them. They were just static in time, so we had to isolate them on the network.
we just did a webinar about Windows 7 end of life. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but definitely addresses that kind of stuff. Hey, so Don asked me, he said, can I use a tweet instead of a news article? And I said, just this once, Don. And it's a slippery slope. And
You've opened the gates.
taken
Peter.
advantage of me now.
Yep.
So let's head back over to Twitter, twitter.com. This is at Digital Lawyer, Peter Gunst. I get to use, what is this? Not onomatopoeia. I get to make a sound like that in the headline.
What is it?
It's not alliteration. It's not onomatopoeia. Not personification. It's the one. Is it?
Oh, when a word sounds like it.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. It might be onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia? All right, well, I'm just going to go for it. Oof was just subjected to the most credible phishing attempt I've ever experienced. I've experienced to date. Here were the steps. Number 1. Hi. Should we play this? Like,
Yeah, we can role play it.
Do you wanna,
Who wants to be Justin? You want to be the hacker or the hacky?
Sure. I'll be the bank
do you have the
the
tweet up there?
hacker. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. So you go ahead. You're number 1.
All right. Who am I talking to?
Peter.
Oh, I'll do it. Sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
Hi. This is your bank. There was an attempt to use your card in Miami, Florida. Was this you?
No.
Okay. We've blocked this transaction. To verify that I am speaking with Peter, is this your member number? What is your member number?
And then I give the member number because that number by itself is useless, according to Peter.
Okay, now just to make sure, we've sent a verification pin to your phone.
All right. I get the verification pin, and I read out the pin to you.
Okay, I'm going to read through some other transactions. Tell me if these are yours. And then I read through transactions.
Yes, those are all legitimate transactions I made.
Thank you. We now want to block the pin on your account so you get a fraud alert when it is used again. What is your pin?
Are you effing kidding me? No way.
All right, so the story is kind of neat because it was a good reenactment, I guess. I thought it was really happening.
Yeah. I almost hacked into Peter's account.
Yeah,
So-
you had me.
So you might ask yourself, how did the guy know it was a fraud at that point, right? Because there's a few things that happened. They said he was going to get a text on his phone
From his
with
bank.
a PIN number from his bank, and he did, right? He got a text from the bank with the code. They then read to him transactions that
he knew were legitimate.
he
yeah.
had made, right? So if this was a hacker, it certainly sounds like they're already in his account and they've compromised his phone. This sounds really sophisticated. But the moment they asked for his PIN, he knew, he was educated to know you never give somebody your PIN, you never give somebody your password.
And a bank would never ask for either of those things.
Right. Although, if you call Cox Cable, one of the first things they do is ask for your PIN number on your account. So I don't know. But
That's a different kind of pin.
so anyhow, he explains what happened. So basically what happened was his bank had where you could go and do a password reset. If you didn't remember your password, it would say, you can reset your password. And one of the options was to send a text to your phone. Now, they didn't know his phone number, and they didn't know the PIN number or anything like that, but they knew where the password reset form was, and they had gotten his email address to use as a login, right, from any number of breaches that are out there. So they punched in the email address, they hit reset the password, they called him to initiate this. Again, you get the phone number from like a previous breach or whatever. They could have texted a fake PIN number to him, but then he would know it didn't come from the bank. In this case, the bank was actually sending it as part of the password reset. So he receives it and tells them the PIN number because, hey, the bank sent it to him. He got it on his phone. Well, they then plug in that PIN number to reset his password and log in. And once they're logged in, they can see those transactions. And so now they're able to read them back because they just got access to the account. So it's pretty sophisticated. It didn't require amazing hacker skills. This is straight up social engineering.
So in this case, I thought they asked him for his account number, like his member
They sent
number.
a member number, which I don't know. That could be the same as the account number.
I think they needed that for the password reset.
Yeah, so there are some financial institutions where like you'll have a username or an email, but then there's also this other, this is also your member number.
It could be like a credit union.
Insurance
if you're a
companies
member.
do that.
But I tell you, if they'd have called my mom, they'd have run off with everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she'd have been like, oh, well, this, and this.
Let me help you carry it.
Yeah.
But they weren't, at the end, they were not able to get away with any money because they needed that final PIN to actually transfer money. I feel like in my banking system, I mean, once you're logged in, you're transfer away.
Well, I mean, they still, once they were in, they had access to a lot of information about him. So it's already like he already got compromised at that point. But he was able to call the bank and disable the account and all of that afterwards. But I don't know about you guys, but I've gotten to where I do not answer my phone anymore unless it's from somebody in my contact list. I never answer an incoming call.
Yeah, if they'll leave a message, and then I know my bank's phone number, and I'll call them directly, not from the number they gave back. But I don't know how many times my Social Security number
It's been canceled.
It's just canceled.
And there are cops coming.
They are on their way. The best I saw, though, was it was a news anchor was interviewing a sheriff about these types of calls, and the sheriff, she got a call on her phone during that time. And going, oh, you're gonna arrest me? Okay, do you know where the station is? You guys can come find me because I'm already here. It's good stuff.
Good times.
This is one of those things that, I mean, this is crafty because we had a hurricane scare. They said, oh, we don't know where it's going. It may go here or there. So we were going to get supplies, and I made a purchase at a home improvement center, but I had to go to another home improvement center to get some other supplies. But they were geographically close, but it was large purchases. My card got locked immediately, and my bank did call me. Mm-hmm. And they say, hey, did you do these? So this is something that a fraud department would do.
Yeah.
But then I would immediately become suspicious if they were like, can you read that PIN to me? No. Actually, if you read a little further down, people ask him about that because it seems like it would be unclear. And he said the text that he got was unclear that it was a password reset PIN, that it might have been like a 2FA PIN.
Yeah, the PIN you requested.
And you're welcome. Those of you out there in Buzzword Bingo land, if you have 2FA or MFA,
I'm not even paying attention.
you go ahead and mark that. That's 2 for me today. They said that it was very ambiguous, but he had also talked to other people that had gotten caught up in this, that they said they just kind of read over the little bit of copy that says what this pin's for and went, yeah, the pin's blah, 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 and not even paid attention to that. So maybe if nothing else from the story, read what it says when you get those little pins. I know for my Amazon account, it's very explicit. Like someone's trying to log in. Mm-hmm. This is your pin for that.
This is why I don't use banks. I've set all my money up
in mason jars in your backyard,
right in front of the Fozcam, so I can watch it all day.
And so can
along with China.
I like how Apple and Google both now, when you get a message telling you somebody's logging in, it does the geolocate on the IP. And so I'm like, oh, somebody trying to log in from Afghanistan. I don't think I'll allow that one. You know, that stuff, it's progressing. People are getting better, but you got to be ever vigilant.
What's wrong with Afghanis?
I'm not there.
There's
that's problem number one.
I think that's the only problem you really need this
scenario. I was just making sure that you weren't, All right. Our last article today is from checkpoint.com at research.checkpoint.com. Oh, this is going to be fun. In the footsteps of a sextortion campaign. Sextortion. I've not heard that word before, but it's like extortion. Well, I mean, I've been a victim of it. I didn't know it had a name.
I'm like, weren't we just talking about your boss camp?
So it's true. So Don, this is a long, basically a story tracking a particular campaign. So you want to give us the
let me just summarize it real quick. So this is not a new attack, but it is a bigger spin on it. So a couple of years ago, I think about 2 years ago, we started seeing these emails pop up. And what happened is, a lot of breaches have occurred. And so your email address is pretty much known by any hacker who wants it right these days. So they were crafting an email that was fairly generic. And it would say, hi, Peter, or whatever, because they had your email address.
They know me.
And then it would go on to say, they hacked your computer.
Okay.
And they took over your webcam and have been recording all of the things you've done on the computer and video footage of you doing various things and looking at various content. And, it's called a sextortion attack, so just let your mind run with that. And then they said, look, we're going to release this to the internet unless you send us a Bitcoin payment. Here's my wallet code. Here's where you can buy Bitcoin. Send me this. It's effectively blackmail, right, or extortion. So in the early days, these were just random emails that were sent to people. Then they started kind of doing whaling, right? Focusing on people who are CEOs or executives. Those are email addresses that are easy to get. And it's unknown exactly how much is being paid to these, but Barracuda and a few other places that scan a lot of email started collecting the wallet codes. And so once they had the Bitcoin wallet code, they could pull up that public ledger and actually see how much was being paid into them. So now they do have a pretty good idea how much these are making. Well, a new round of attacks just started about 2 weeks ago, and they've ramped up. It's the same basic format. So you'll get an email. It's a little more sophisticated in that they've got your email address, your name, and an old password, hopefully a password you're not using anywhere else, but one that you used on a site that was likely breached, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any of these vBulletin sites that get breached, they usually have where the passwords are decoded. And
they're just getting that from an old breach.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you might not even be using it anymore, but it adds credibility to the email. And they say, I recorded you, and here's your name. And I know one of your passwords. It's blah, blah, blah. And so you see this password that you may have previously used. Hopefully you're not still using, because if you're still using it, it's even more convincing. Like, oh, crap, this person knows my password. Meanwhile, they just got it from one of the big data dumps, like the Vault 6 dump or one of those where they have millions of these. And then it goes on to say, like, I recorded you through your webcam, in this case, satisfying yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently they recorded me eating a Snickers bar.
He's like, this is good candy.
Snickers
Satisfied.
does satisfy you.
I am satisfied.
And then they're asking for $800 in Bitcoin and providing a wallet key. Now, this one, the reason we're talking about it now, because this is not a new attack, right? This was news 2 years ago. What's new is there is a malware that is spreading very, very fast that's compromised something like 250,000 machines at this point that installs a spam bot that transmits these emails. And so the volume of these emails has increased exponentially over the last couple of weeks. So if this is news to you, if you've never seen an email like this, you are likely going to be seeing one in the next couple of days if you haven't already. Check your spam filter, because that's where they usually end up. But there's a lot of these pumping out there.
So in this write-up at checkpoint.com, they go on to tell you like how this occurs, how the spam's actually working.
It's a really good article.
It was really well written. But the sample spam bot email, right? Don showed you a little bit of that, or talked about it. I know one of your passwords. If you're still using it, bad. But there's a couple of things that got me. I go, oh man, that would really sink you. You should Google drive-by exploit. So correct me if I'm wrong, Don. Is this something that's going to show up as valid as a thing that you could read about on Google? And so you go, oh, yeah, they could have got me doing that. So that lends credence. That's the truth in this lie, right?
Yeah, and they have to sprinkle that throughout to build the credibility, right? And I'm not going to give you a link. You just Google it so you know it's safe. And if you search for drive-by exploit, you'll probably find an article by Sophos or Threat Labs or somebody like that, so a legitimate source, and you can learn about how web browsers can install malware without you even knowing about it. And so now you start to build a story. It's like when people go on WebMD and they have every sickness they read about. So that's
I've got
how this
all
would
the
be.
cancers.
Yeah, I
All
can't
of
believe it. It's like a royal flush.
Yeah, I got Hep A, B, and C.
I got to catch them all.
You're the count.
Yeah.
The second thing that caught me was the exact amount. It said exactly $800 in Bitcoin. Why $800? Like, is that just some random thing that it
They've
picked?
done the math of here's what people are willing
to
to
pay
before they
Yeah.
go to the cops.
I mean, it wouldn't have struck me if it just said $800, but it said exactly $800.
That might be a language thing. Although this one is actually, like, grammatically, this one's written really well compared to the original ones.
I feel like that's a business opportunity of just
Grammar
lending
checking.
translation services to foreign hackers. Going, I should write back to this. Go, hey, I appreciate the effort. Not going to buy it, but did notice you got some issues here. How about
If you send me exactly
Yeah,
800
exactly.
Bitcoin, $800 in Bitcoin, I will be your editor.
I'll
Peter,
proofread.
do you know where I could set up one of those services to be
See, nice
sought
try,
out by one of these?
See that right here? I already tried it with Don. I said, so where do they get these passwords? He's like, the internet from other breaches. I'm like, yeah, but no, like specifically where?
Yeah. Is it like a shady, like
It's like a bright area?
or no?
No, it's not. I did notice, though, as we were talking about this, as Don and Justin caught me, I looked up and, my webcam cover's open. And I was like, I had a call yesterday on that. What did I do since yesterday? Anything? No.
Those
Okay.
Snickers
Have you
bars
Snickers
and
bars?
wrappers.
And a couple Baby Ruth. But no, I'm all set there. So, wow.
Baby
so,
Ruth, that's a good candy bar.
Yeah.
Underrated.
So something to change. I feel like when you said they're going after whales too, I thought, if they sent this to Justin, he'd go, cool, just make sure you tag me on the post.
Yeah. This could be our
So
breakout
you know
moment.
how you just destroy like blackmail or you go, that's awesome, but I'm going to need royalties from that. So that's my likeness and my name. So I'll see
Do you have them
court.
all? Because I can send you more.
You should start a drip campaign with this. It's crazy.
Well, this is one of those times where I have no segue.
Ah.
We've got an interview now that's about legacy systems, which we're going to find out what exactly that means because that can mean a lot of things. But Marty Bakal is the product evangelist over at OpenLegacy. So let's take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk with Marty right after this here on Technado.
Are you a career changer or a budding tech pro who's looking to start their career in IT? I'm Wes Bryan, and along with my fellow IT Pro TV edutainer Cherokee Boos, we've just shot a new show just for you. Each week, we'll dive into topics to help you launch your career in tech. Watch how to get started in IT on YouTube now. Just head to youtube.com/ITProTV to watch and look for new episodes every Saturday at 9 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time.
All right, welcome back to Technado, and as promised, we are joined by our guest now, Marty Bakal, who is a product evangelist at OpenLegacy. How you doing, Marty?
Pretty good.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And just to start off, for those that haven't heard of OpenLegacy, I mean, I looked kind of down the description here, and it seems like you guys will solve any problem I've ever had or ever will have. So can you tell us a little bit about what OpenLegacy does?
We'll solve any problem you have with legacy systems.
Okay.
That's the way I would say it. We focus on legacy systems and how they work, and actually generating APIs and interfaces for legacy systems. And basically, we generate them as cloud native applications. They can be Java-based microservices, or we can even now do JavaScript generation for things like AWS Lambda functions directly call. So really, we make it really easy for you to access your legacy systems with, say, COBOL or other types of languages, all as part of it. And that's our primary goal is to allow you to actually access those directly in a fraction of the time it would take you to build something that actually works to it with no middleware, nothing else in between. A real nice, simple connection which you can put into a container and it works very easily.
All right, so can you help me define legacy systems here? Because I've kind of heard that term thrown around to mean, anything from old, AS400s to, I don't know, is Windows 7 a legacy these days? Because support's cut off. So how do you define that in your scenario?
In our scenario, it really is the AS400s. It's the mainframes. It's the old SM. It really is back-end systems, things that are on-premise in many different cases. I agree you could have like a Java system or something like that. It's not our main focus. We do things like RPG, COBOL, some SAP systems, Oracle, different types of databases that are all on-prem.
All right, so let's say that I've got one of these legacy systems laying around, and in a perfect world, we would just migrate to some modern platform and be done with it, right? But I think we know from what, like primarily government and large enterprise, that they're the ones that either just have, like, what is it that stops them from moving away? They've got just a huge investment, or it's not possible for them to move away. What's keeping these customers from replacing those systems?
Well, there's a lot of different things. I mean, we talk a lot to banks, insurance companies. some government, some transportation. Many times they're regulated. And so they actually need those business processes, things like that are part of what they built to meet regulations. They also can't put it into the cloud in many cases because of regulatory needs. I mean, you can argue whether they could maybe go through everything and make that all work, but it would be hard. So there's a lot of different things involved with the scale, the size of the systems, and also just the fact that they couldn't move them in there anyways. So, they spend time and try to figure out ways maybe to adjust them to more modern, but it would be a lot of rework without that much benefit long term in some ways.
So I've worked in a couple of legacy systems, and they tend to be these giant monoliths of just, it's just sad, really, and you can't do much about it. But you said, I have no middleware. We code generate. So you're not necessarily building, there's nothing that's sitting in between. Are you ingesting someone's source code and generating, carving out a piece and saying, oh, that now sits here, we've updated it for you? Or how does that actually work?
We do ingest the code if you give us the code, or even the screens, if you give us the direct screens, and we get the information for how to call it. We're still calling that legacy system, but we're actually parsing it into things that are APIs, so we can generate microservices that know how to call it and maybe take care, and actually then we have these SDKs that can store some of the information for some of the commonly called things and allow you to orchestrate information so you can work between a couple of them and actually make calls and have a good API you can work with.
Now, what about security issues that would center around this? Because you're basically taking all the input that would normally be sent to that legacy system and having to transmit it. I know most of the legacy systems that I've seen have not been designed with security in mind, and so they're fairly weak on that. And one of the advantages of moving to a newer platform is that you can kind of shore that up. But if you're keeping the legacy system around, are you insulating the customer from that somehow, or do they still have to find another way to secure that platform?
It's a good question. I mean, a lot of the legacy systems we deal with actually are more secure than you think because they're big banking systems that had to be set up that way. Sometimes their interfaces aren't secure. We do, though, spend a lot of time with things like a lot of the common OAuth 2 and a lot of the other types of security that people commonly use on the web for our calling into that legacy system. We also, it's also can still be part of your whatever security systems you want to call, you can call from our stuff because it's direct Java code that you actually have access to. So if you actually want to put a call in there to your security, you can do that so you can check everything that goes to and from and make checks on it. So we use the security of the legacy system and also security that you add to the system for making the call itself.
Now, when I think about solutions like this, where we're basically bolting on a modern interface to an older platform, to me it seems like the most common scenario would be a temporary solution, and temporary might be a few years, but just while you're getting to where you can finally replace that back end. But are you finding where people use you as a permanent solution to just say, look, we can maintain that legacy system forever now that we've got a modern interface stuck on it?
Well, it's a great question, and these are discussions we get into with our customers. Some customers want to do migration, eventually think they want to do a full migration to another system, and that's great. We can help them with that because we have microservices that we actually allow you to put in there, and then you could just reroute those microservices to something new if you do it. Some customers say, I'm not going to move it. I'm just going to keep it working, and I'm going to make calls to it because this is a modern API. Now I can just work directly with it inside the cloud. And a lot of customers do a variation of both at the same time. So it's nice because you actually get those options and everything's built in a real modern API from everything else that integrates to it perspective.
All right. Now, I used to be a field engineer, so I traveled a lot. I'd go to a lot of data centers, and every now and then I would get truly shocked by how old a piece of equipment was or some software that somebody was still running. I learned never to underestimate the age of people's equipment. So for you guys, you've been around several years now. You're an international company. What's the most unusual thing that you've had to kind of retrofit? What's the oldest system that you're aware of?
I mean, most of the ones we deal with are definitely some very old mainframes, some IBM I machines that are quite old. We've seen some of the really early versions of SAP that even SAP won't do with their tooling. They won't actually migrate up unless you upgrade first. So we've seen a lot of custom applications people build that are still kind of there and are very old. Now, there's sort of a nomenclature confusion a little bit because IBM still makes mainframes. They still make what they call IBM I, which is the old AS400s modernized. So some people have modern computers running really old software, and that still is, in our mind, a legacy system.
So you mentioned, Marty, that you guys are, or actually Don just mentioned, you guys are an international company, originally started in Israel, but you've just kind of recently ventured into the U.S., is that right?
Yeah, we ventured to the U.S. at the start of this year. We've already had some pretty good customers and some large banks and insurance companies in North America in general. So this is our first foray here. We started in Israel, we moved to Europe and actually Latin America because there were some pretty good parallels for some customers who needed to modernize there. And then this year we rolled out working in North America, and at the end of the year, really starting next year, we're working in APAC as well.
All right, so let's say just to kind of set a scope for something like this, that if I had like an old SAP deployment, those are incredibly expensive. I know it's difficult to migrate and change those, so I decide I want to engage with you all to help to modernize a bit. What does the deployment look like? Am I standing up a server here on-prem that's running the API that you guys create, or is that hosted on your end like a cloud service? What does the actual infrastructure look like?
We actually don't have our own cloud service at all. We don't charge that way. It's not what we do. Usually you can put it anywhere you want, to be honest. You could put it on another on-prem machine if you choose to, but many customers put it in a public cloud or a private cloud, however they want to make it work. Because all we're generating, which you generate yourself, because if we just sell a platform you can generate yourself, is a microservice in Java typically. So that you can then deploy it anywhere you want, because we'll put it into a container for you, and you can just deploy it anywhere you want, and it'll call the legacy system from there and make it work. So it's very flexible in how you want to deploy it. There's no real requirement for how you make that work. We also recently were just in the process of releasing JavaScript version, so you can generate JavaScript and put that in like an AWS Lambda function or something along those lines. So a couple different flexible options. Deploy anywhere you want, and deploy in days rather than months that it takes some others, because everything's automatically generated.
Yeah, I can think of a number of the advantages to it, and one of the big advantages I'm thinking of is it's hard to find developers that are trained to work on those legacy systems, but if you can have a modern API tacked onto it, it becomes a heck of a lot easier to find developers. I know, Justin, for you, if I said, hey, I need you to write this application or interact with this app and use our API, and you're able to write in Python, that's going to work out well. But if I say, well, I need you to write this in COBOL, that's going to
I'm going to need more zeros at the end of my paycheck. It's funny. I've actually been interacting on a personal project with a legacy system, and it is incredibly painful. Like, I've just been going, please let this be updated. But after discussions with the various organizations, that's not going to happen. But maybe I can hey, there's easy ways to go about doing this, figure this out. But I do have a question, speaking of interfacing with these new APIs, writing in Python. That's great. But you say no middlewares, but I think my mental model's a little skewed here, right?
What is the definition of middleware?
Yeah, let's make sure, because when I think of middleware, I think I may be thinking of something differently. So when you say no middlewares, what does that actually mean when you're generating these microservices that provide an API?
We're saying no ESBs, no SOA type systems where you have a queue that you have to put something in and pop it back out the other end. We do say we have an abstraction layer, but the abstraction layer really is just an SDK that calls directly through to the legacy system, and then from the SDK you can have an API that calls into the SDK and orchestration inside of there. And all of that is Java code that you have access to, but each one's a direct connection to the storage inside of the legacy system, which then you can do orchestration and things like that between them. So you can have a few of these SDKs working to build one API and some different options to actually make it more customizable from there.
So at the end of the day, the legacy system is completely unchanged, right? You haven't installed anything on that. Everything is running from the separate microservices.
That's the other big thing we do. We don't make you build a facade on the legacy system like a lot of other companies do. They actually make you build a facade there that does a translation of the from the legacy language to the modern language, the data, things like that. And we don't make you do that. We do all the translation automatically inside of the SDK in Java, which then allows you, and that's all inside the microservice. So you actually have control over how that all works, and it takes care of having to do something on the legacy system, maybe written in COBOL, that then translates it so it's understandable in Java. And we don't make you put it on a queue, so we get rates of like 5 times faster running than a lot of systems that go through that middleware. And our development efforts are much shorter. We get these things done. We can generate APIs a lot of times in hours or days, whereas a lot of times people say it takes them weeks or months to do that.
Now, I know, like, putting a solution like this in place, it's got to be fairly expensive, and really, it would probably only be larger companies that had legacy systems laying around that they still needed to maintain. So is your target the enterprise space, like Fortune 100, Fortune 500, maybe government? Is that your primary customer?
Our traditional customers, a lot of times, are banks, insurance companies, fairly large. But there's a fair number of the mid-tier type companies that actually we work with. They're, the mid-tier banks, that they aren't the big ones, but the regional banks, because we see a lot of interest in there. We also see some that have legacy systems in like transportation industry with logistics, because they have a mainframe that keeps track of their customers, keeps track of how to get to them and access them, and they don't want to change that just to do it. So we do see a lot of those mid-sized to large companies we're working with.
Okay, so Marty, if I fit into to that group of people, what's the best way to reach out with you, to engage you?
Well, you can definitely go to our website, openlegacy.com. We have a nice demo center there where you can actually watch videos for a couple minutes and see what's going on. And from there, you actually can contact our sales team and actually start a discussion with us. That's probably the best way to get there. We also will be at Money 2020 in Las Vegas in a few weeks. So we do go to different conferences, and feel free to check out our website, check out our case studies, because we actually have some named customers like Credit Corp and things like that are up there. You can take a look at our case studies, and that's basically how you reach us.
But I do figure with legacy systems, people can still fax you as well, right? Is that a good way to get a hold of you?
They could. I think most of them have email at least.
Yeah.
And if they want to
send Marty a telegram and
it'll print out on his dot matrix printer.
Yeah, you print it out. You got to get the little edges off of the paper and everything. But hey, Marty, thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you all for watching. But stay tuned. We have more Technado coming up right after this.
I'm James Packer. I'm the General Manager of Kirk ISS based in the Cayman Islands. I used IT Pro TV extensively in my last place. It grew very well, helped upskill the team. I had 110 engineers in the field, and we had dozens of IT Pro accounts with the guys training, and last year alone they passed over 40 certs by using the online training. I think I can safely say without IT Pro TV I wouldn't be where I was today, because I only got this job on the back of the qualifications I have.
All right, welcome back to Technado, and thank you so much to Marty for joining us up from Boston. That was cool to hear about. And we've talked, I feel like, in a lot of these stories in the last few weeks about these legacy systems that this town was running in that, and that's why that they were able to be attacked by ransomware or other situations like that. So I'm glad you asked about the security aspect of it.
Well, there was one town that was saved by their legacy system. Like, all their machines got hit by ransomware except for their old Z series mainframe.
It doesn't have an Ethernet port. We couldn't even put it on the internet. So that'll do it. Hey, we want to let you know about a couple of things before you get going here. First of all, we got a couple webinars coming up. So if you head over to itpro.tv/webinars, you can see the list of all the past webinars, all the archived ones, as well as all of the upcoming ones. And the next one coming up right now is Threats in Disguise. Are you haunted by hidden hacker hardware? That's going to take place on Thursday, October 31st, also known as Halloween, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's Daniel and Don. And you're talking about all the kinds of devices you might find around your office that pen testers could use or nefarious actors could be actually using.
Yeah, if we haven't created enough fear in the podcast, then we're certainly going to make up for it in the webinar.
Perfect.
Hidden crap could be all over the place.
We did discuss, though, this morning, we're not doing a smoke machine this year.
No, that didn't work out so well.
Yeah, the studios were shut down for about an hour after the webinar last year because we waited for the smoke to dissipate. The sprinklers didn't come on. That was
I
the
did
other
allow
worry.
me to get a 1 foot tall Stonehenge that could descend from the ceiling, but that got turned down. So,
Why? Who turned that down?
Budget.
Real quick aside, are sprinklers run off smoke alone, or do they have to be heated,
heat.
don't they?
Yeah, but I feel like there are some, or maybe there's different kinds. I don't know, but I mean, my smoke detector runs off of just smoke, right?
No, it runs off americium in a battery.
Okay.
But
Mine's actually powered by smoke. It only works
yeah.
when there is
I have
smoke.
to build a small fire in a barrel every day when I get home.
It's a steam powered.
Do you know how much firewood I got to gather to keep my smoke detector?
Were you going somewhere with that? Or?
No,
No.
that wasn't.
Fantastic. And also, we've got a deal over at IT Pro TV at go.itpro.tv/Technado. You can check out our 30% off code for your membership. You can also do a 7-day free trial there. And that 30% off is for the lifetime of your subscription. You can also request a demo of IT Pro TV for Teams and find out about the cool features that we have for multiple users so they can track who's watching what, assign courses, and all that good kind of stuff. So that's over at go.itpro.tv/Technado. Check it out. All right, guys. We've still got a couple weeks before the Halloween thing. I don't know if we're going to be in costume or anything here.
Oh, sure.
I mean,
I don't have a costume.
No, I don't know. We'll see. By the way, did either of you get bingo?
no, I am one dark web away from bingo. You don't get to check it. This is when we talk about
do.
it.
Don't I get to check it? I'm gonna get It's cool.
Wait, did somebody say attack?
But what's funny, you said attack on small cities about legacy
I
systems, and I was like,
Oh, I think I said that in the interview too. I think I probably said that in the interview.
maybe I just
Yeah.
didn't catch it, but I was like, all right.
I'm Russia away from.
How do we not
bingo.
talk about Russia this week? And
It was all
especially when,
Chinese stuff.
the article from one of the ones was like there was a Sergey wrote this article, and there was a there were Russian names all over the place today, and we didn't even bring it up.
That's where we get our most current news.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Straight from Vladimir's desk.
I feel like Don hasn't had bingo in a long time because he says all the words.
He's
Yeah.
borderline blackout
us.
over here, though. I mean, he's got it like,
I probably have half my card checked off.
yeah.
If you had robotic, you'd be.
There's definitely some words I know that I said blockchain, I said breach.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah. I said encrypt.
Did you?
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? There's always next week. And next week you can play along with us. And we hope that you will join us next week on Technado. We'll see you then.